All right, so death, you know, what happens to us, to our bodies? I mean, after we die, we've all thought about it, right? I bet most of you listening are thinking burial or maybe cremation. Those are the familiar ones.
Yeah, pretty standard in Western culture.
Right, exactly. But get this, there's this whole other way of dealing with, well, with the body. Um, and it involves offering the body to vultures.
You're talking about sky burial?
Yeah, sky burial. Have you heard of this?
It's called jhator in Tibetan. It's an ancient funeral practice, like seriously old tradition, super tied up in Tibetan Buddhist beliefs.
I gotta say, when I first heard about it, I was kind of like, whoa, seriously? It just seemed, I don't know, like so different from anything I'd ever, well, imagined.
It's definitely not the norm for most people, but that's why we're doing this deep dive, right? To get into these practices that might seem, well, shocking at first glance, but
Yeah.
when you really understand the philosophy behind them, they start to make a lot of sense.
That's it, exactly. And with sky burial, we're talking about a whole different perspective
Right.
on death, on the soul, on like the whole cycle of life, right?
Yeah, for sure. See, Tibetan Buddhists, they don't see the body the way like many other cultures do. It's not this thing to be preserved at all costs. It's more like like a temporary shell, a vessel.
The vehicle for the soul.
Exactly. The soul moves on. And the body, just an empty shell once the soul's gone.
So they don't cling to it, right?
Right. There's no embalming, no fancy caskets. Instead, they practice jhator, which, well, it literally means giving alms to the birds.
Okay, so that's where the vultures come in.
Yep. They offer the body as nourishment, a final act of generosity, compassion, you could even say.
Okay, hold on a second. This is blowing my mind a little. You're saying they take the body up to a mountain and like leave it for the vultures.
Well, it's a bit more than just leaving it. First off, the location is super important. It's not just any old mountaintop. We're talking high peaks, sacred places, places that are, thought to be closer to the heavens.
Wow, so the setting is like part of the ritual itself.
Exactly. Imagine like a really stark landscape. Windswept, prayer flags, flapping in the wind, this powerful sense of nature, of like the vastness of it all. It's been going on for centuries in these places,
Yeah.
generations, It's powerful stuff.
I can only imagine. And this whole like connection to the heavens, that ties into what you were saying earlier about the soul.
Right. So the body's been taken up to the mountaintop. Sometimes a family member does it. Sometimes it's someone else. And then there are these trained practitioners, rogyapas, they're called, and they prepare the body in a very particular way. I mean, they disassemble it so that the vultures can consume it.
I'm thinking some of our listeners might be wincing right now, imagining what that looks like. So how do we square that with what you said about reverence and compassion?
Okay, so it's really important to understand that this is not, like a gruesome spectacle, right? The whole thing is done with a deep respect for the deceased. And the vultures, they're not seen as, these scary scavengers. In fact, they're considered sacred beings, dakinis, like almost spiritual guides for the soul on its journey.
See, that's so different from how we think of vultures in like Western culture. We tend to associate them with, I don't know, death, decay. Definitely not like spiritual guides.
It's a total shift, right? In Tibetan Buddhism, vultures are actually seen as helping to free the soul from the physical form, helping it to reach the heavens.
And this all goes back to that core Buddhist concept, right? The impermanence of things.
Exactly. Nothing lasts forever. Our bodies, our possessions, everything, it's all temporary. Sky burial, it's this stark, powerful reminder of that, this way of accepting and even celebrating. Yeah, celebrating the natural cycle of life and death and rebirth. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
I'm thinking about how, in a lot of Western cultures, we try to fight that impermanence. We try to hold on to the physical body for as long as we can. Embalming, elaborate tombs. It's like we're trying to deny that natural cycle you were talking about.
Interesting, right? How different cultures deal with those big questions: life, death, what happens after we die. It really makes you think.
Yeah, and sky burial, it's not about mourning the end, It's about, like you said, celebrating this continuation, this ongoing cycle. I'm not sure I could, fully wrap my head around it, if I'm being honest, but I have to admit there's something really profound about it. And yeah, okay, a little bit challenging too,
I think that's the point sometimes, to be challenged.
Yeah.
To to step outside of our comfort zones and see things from a whole new perspective. That's how we learn and grow.
Sure. And that's what these deep dives are all about. So, okay, we've explored this ancient tradition, this whole other way of thinking about death. And I think I'm left with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Like, what do our own rituals, our own traditions around death say about us, about our beliefs, about what comes after, and how do those beliefs, how do they influence the way we live our lives? Something to think about, don't you think?
Definitely. Something to ponder.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Until next time, keep exploring.
Keep questioning everything.